This feels so weird. I genuinely cannot get over it, but it's our first episode, James.
I'm saying, let's do this thing.
You're ready?
Yeah, well, actually it's not like second, right? I guess it's like our first one together.
Yeah, that last one was really fun. But we could top it. We could top it.
That's what I was about to say. I think we could top it. Yeah.
Was that our intro? I thought that would be our intro.
From PBS NewsHour Student Reporting Labs
And WETA.
This is On Our Minds
With Bree
and James,
a podcast by teens for teens.
because everyone deserves a place to feel heard. Well, I think that was a success.
Success! Oh my gosh. That's what we're talking about today.
Yep. Today's episode of On Our Minds is all about success. So, Bree, without looking up the word in the dictionary, how would you define success?
I would say success is a outcome that you're content with. So that's how I define success. But what about you?
Well, for me, other than the conventional ways to measure success like grades or wealth, I think success is when I go outside of my comfort zone to try something new. I remember growing up, I was always fearful of trying new things in case I wouldn't be good at them. But I think now I find success in overcoming that fear. And I really see myself making up for all that lost time by trying new things, like being on this podcast.
I feel like how we define success matters because success sets standards on people, and being successful or at least striving for success could definitely be stressful in a way. So I think it's really important that we define it.
Yeah, actually, Student Reporting Labs recently led a workshop in Kansas City. The students there explored this topic of success. Here's what they had to say.
What does success mean to you?
When you reach a goal in your mind, because I think that a trophy doesn't always mean that you're successful, and there's a lot going on behind the scenes.
Success means a big accomplishment that you made and you're proud of it.
Success means just going through all those hard times so that you can finally make it to the top of the peak. It's like a mountain. Once you get there, the view's just amazing.
Tell me about a time when you felt you were successful in life.
I made a graphic and I got a bunch of compliments on it, and I just felt like I actually did something that people noticed.
The first time I started a sports team, because for a while in my life it was almost a taboo subject for me to be in sports, and so being able to now was a huge success for me.
I got one of my pieces published within my first semester, and it was a really good feeling to have that published in the magazine and win awards for it. It was really nice.
It was really great to hear the perspectives of the students. The word success and the definition of success is so subjective. One of the first people, they mentioned that success doesn't equate to an award or a trophy, and I really resonate with that. From the past, I was always accomplishment and award driven. However, now kind of as a film student, I realize it's really all about the outcome, no matter what outcome it is. What do you think, James?
There's something else that someone else said, that success is a lot about going through all those tough times. And so you have to be mindful of all those obstacles you were able to overcome to get to where you are now. And I think that that's just a really fresh, cool take on success.
Up next, student reporter Keerthi explored the challenges of being a child of immigrant parents and the pressure of the American dream.
I am the daughter of dreamers, visionaries, go-getters who bargain at the grocery store like it was a market stall selling mangoes in the foggy streets of India. I am the daughter of the American dream. I have religiously watched the Olympics and screamed Team USA at the top of my lungs. I have watched as my parents hoisted a threadbare American flag. I have held the colors red, white, blue in my hands. My experience as the child of 2 immigrants has made me look the word equality in a new light. Above all, what I've realized is that I'm the daughter of people who have faced blatant racism and done absolutely nothing about it. A realization struck me during a Netflix special, Homecoming King, where Indian-American comedian Hasan Minhaj highlighted the concept of the American dream tax.
Like, my dad's from that generation, like a lot of immigrants, where he feels like if you come to this country, you pay this thing like the American dream tax, right? Like, you're gonna endure some racism, and if it doesn't cost you your life, well, hey, you lucked out, pay it. There you go, Uncle Sam.
In order to be an upstanding, successful member of this new society, there's this notion that there's some kind of payment. In pursuit of success, the glorious American dream, immigrants seem to think that dealing with microaggressions and implied racism is a part of the package. We, as immigrants, love a good deal, and we take it, no matter what the cost is. With us here to help us better understand success as an Indian American is Dr. Angana Chatterjee, a scholar of UC Berkeley. And we want to say thank you so much for being here with us today, Dr. Chatterjee.
Thank you so much. It's my pleasure, and I'm honored to speak with you.
So, what do you think about this concept, the American dream tax?
It's heartbreaking, isn't it? I think in the United States, those who are immigrants, dreams carry both the promise but also the poison of history and this new belonging.
Do you think getting this success is worth turning a blind eye to racism and inequality and all of this discrimination?
No. And which is not to suggest that, therefore, immigration is not an option. I'm an immigrant. I am clearly in no position to say that, because free and equal requires for those with privilege to intervene on privilege, for those who have been marginalized to have access, to have the right to equality, to have the entitlement to equality. Such discrimination impacts how people can perceive their history, impacts how their histories are demonized, impacts workplace discrimination today, right here in Silicon Valley.
Do you believe Indian Americans have an obligation to fight despite being from somewhere else?
Absolutely. You cannot have a society where people are less than equal. It is today a dream because so many are so radically unequal. Cultural injustices, economic injustices, social injustices, these are not acceptable conditions of being. And to be here does not imply that therefore one must put up with it, as much as it does not imply that to be African American or Black, to be Native American in the United States does not mean that history should not be addressed. The opposite. History should allow in the present our becoming in ways that promise equality, that where equality can be effectuated, can be enacted, can be practiced, not just as an ideal, but lived as practice with impossible returns, not as a myth. But I think the question to ask ourselves today is what profusion of action and activism are necessary in order that a more equitable present and future is available.
Thank you so much for joining us today, Dr. Chatterjee.
Thank you so much, Keerthi. It was truly my pleasure.
Wow, that was a really powerful message from Keerthi. As she was like sharing that story, it really made me think about like my own commitment to military service. I think that the main reason why I want to go serve is because I love the country that my parents worked so hard to get me to. But not only do I want to fight for our country, I want to be able to fight the stigmas associated with military service. And most importantly, I want to really challenge the stereotypes of what is expected of Asian Americans in the US.
As she was talking about parents that bargain, like I was like, oh my God, that's my mom. Oh my God. But yeah, and then my sister is obsessed with Hasan Minhaj, and I was just seeing so much of myself in this piece of basically like spoken word. It was just so powerful. Up next, 2 student reporters also explore being children of immigrant parents. They have chosen to remain anonymous since they are discussing details about their families.
My parents are both immigrants from South Korea. I think my dad came over when he was like 14 or something. Like he was the only like person of color in his high school. And I think he took that as like kind of like a challenge almost. So he like always tells us, like my siblings and I, stories of how he like memorized the whole dictionary when he was in high school, and how like because of that he like scored better on like English tests than everyone, even though he was like the only foreigner, and he was also valedictorian of his high school. I think he like uses that story as like foundation of his success, because I think he realizes that like without that initial like kind of like success story, he wouldn't have had the later success in his life. So yeah, how have your parents like backstories kind of affected your success?
Did you know my parents are from Togo? Yeah, so my dad came in 2001. He did have a tough journey getting to where he is now. He mostly lived in shelters, or going to like food shelters, and then he eventually was able to get a job with some help from others, and get an apartment and eventually get a house. So he definitely attributes success to being able to kind of have all that stuff and more. I'd say he definitely, pushes that to be better than what I have right now for me and my siblings.
How would you define success if you have one?
A success story is not really, there's no definition for it given. I think it's just very subjective. It depends on a person's motivations, their environment, their wants and dreams, and what maybe they need to be happy in the future.
And I also think it's important for you to kind of make your own definitions yours, and not really the projections of your parents or like whatever anyone else tells you about success.
Well, as the son of immigrant parents myself, I saw a lot of similar experiences, but I can really see that my parents actually adopted a really fresh take on success upon immigrating to the US to start like a family. And I think that my definition of success now most closely resembles my parents' like idea of success. So like they're always teaching me to like be fearless and like supporting my dreams and like ambitions so that I could really like live my life without like looking back with regret. But what about you, Bri? I know that you also, you know, have immigrant parents. So like, what has your experience kind of been like?
My mom is an immigrant, and she's from the Caribbean. And a lot of Caribbean immigrants have this scarcity mindset. So I really resonated with what was said about parents wanting the American dream for their children rather than themselves, because it really proves to how selfless they are as parents. And I definitely see that with my parents and my mom especially. Joining us now is another member of the On Our Minds team, a researcher and fact checker, Simran.
Hi, it's so nice to talk to you both.
So, Simran, can you tell the listeners where you're joining us from and a little bit about yourself?
Yeah, so I'm a junior from Cumming, Georgia, and for those who don't know where Cumming is, it's a little bit south of Atlanta.
I know you've been researching the very broad topic of success, so tell us what you've learned.
Yeah, so I've been researching success and how it relates to teen mental health. And I think the most important thing to understand is that for most teens, being successful means doing well in school and getting into college. So those are typically the biggest stressors for them. In fact, in 2019, the Pew Research Center reported that 61% of teens feel a lot of pressure to get good grades. That's not to minimize the other stressors relating to success, because there's definitely a lot more, like wanting to look good, fit in, be part of an extracurricular activity, and be good at sports, among other things.
Obviously, parents' expectations influence their children, so did you find any research about that?
So I think it's also important to note how there's now what I would call a disconnect between teens' worries about succeeding and then their parents' worries about the same thing. This is talked about in more detail by Jennifer Wallace in her book Never Enough, When Achievement Culture Becomes Toxic and What We Can Do About It. To summarize, in some ways, our generation is having a more difficult time than our parents. For example, we have more debt, more trouble affording healthcare, real estate, and necessities, and more visible, if not more frequent, mental health challenges. For today's parents, all of this uncertainty is much different than what they experienced during their own childhood, so they feel a lot more responsible for their children's success than parents have in the past. Unfortunately, the implications of this are that today's parents often end up passing on these anxieties about the future to their children through the way in which they approach parenting.
Yeah, I see a lot of similar struggles in my experience too whenever I find myself in disagreements with my parents. So, what can we do as teenagers of this generation about all this stress and anxiety? What has personally worked for you, Simran?
So as teenagers that are part of this generation, I think the most important thing is finding healthy ways to cope with the stress that we feel to succeed. And personally, my healthy outlet would be listening to music or going for a run, because those are just really great ways for me to unwind. So I highly recommend that if you're a teenager and you're struggling from the pressures to succeed, that you also find something that you love to do, and just use it as a way to kind of take a break from all the stress that you're feeling.
There's really nothing better than like popping in your earbuds and going out for a little run with your favorite song. It's gotta be the best feeling. Well, thank you so much for joining us again, Simran. We look forward to more research you produce for On Our Minds.
Yep, thanks for having me.
Well, I think this episode has been a success.
Oh my gosh. That's so corny, but I love it. It really has been a success. I can't lie, it has been.
Well, up next, an episode all about making music, listening to it, dancing to it, and how it can affect your mood and help you get through tough times.
We'll also have a conversation with the composer of this year's theme music, Joseph Broad, a 17-year-old from the Nashville area.
Let's start the theme music. I am so impressed that he composed this.
On Our Minds Season 4 is produced by Student Reporting Labs in collaboration with KUOW's Radioactive Youth Media.
Today's segments were produced by
Keerthi from San Ramon, California,
Kansas City students with the support of the Kauffman Foundation and youth media producer Chris Schwalm.
This episode was produced by lead podcast producer Briget Ganske and associate producer Jaylah Moore-Ross, with research and fact-checking by Simran Gupta.
Frankie St. Pierre Nelson edited and mixed this episode. Approval and oversight by editorial director Marie Kusick and executive producer Leah Klattman.
Theme music by Joseph Broad. Additional music from Blue Dot Sessions.
If you or someone you know needs help, we have a list of resources at studentreportinglabs.org/mental health resources.